Charles, a 21-year-old college student at Westbridge University, thought moving to Greystone was a fresh start, but a wrong turn down an abandoned road would plunge him into a nightmare so terrifying, escape seemed impossible. The screen goes black, and a whisper lingers, "Run while you still can." The beginning. Charles Parker had just turned 21 and was eager to begin a new chapter of his life. A scholarship had earned him a spot at Westbridge University, a prestigious school located in the small, quiet town of Greystone. Far from the bustling streets of New York City, Greystone seemed like the perfect place for Charles to focus on his studies. He found a cheap rental house on the outskirts of town, near the edge of a dense forest. The house was old, but it fit his student budget. When he signed the lease, the landlord, an elderly man named Mr. Whitaker, gave him a strange warning. "It's an old house, son. Sometimes it makes noises, creaks and groans. Don't let it bother you." Charles brushed it off, chalking it up to the ramblings of a superstitious old man. The first few weeks at Westbridge were smooth. Charles quickly made friends with 3 other students. Claire, a bubbly art major who loved adventure. A tech-savvy computer science major with a knack for cracking jokes. Sophia, a quiet but brilliant literature student who often spoke her mind. The 4 of them became inseparable, and their Friday nights were often spent exploring the small town, which was filled with old, abandoned places and local legends. One Friday night, Claire proposed an idea. "Let's take a road trip. I heard there's this creepy, abandoned village a few miles out of town. Perfect for a late-night adventure." Liam hesitated. Exploring back roads at night sounds like the start of a horror movie to me. But Sophia found the idea intriguing, and Charles, always up for a thrill, agreed. The wrong turn. The night was cold, and the moon hid behind a blanket of clouds. Claire was driving while Liam navigated using a map on his phone. "Turn left here," Liam instructed. Claire slowed the car as they approached a narrow dirt road. "This doesn't look right. Are you sure this is the way?" "It's a shortcut," Liam reassured her. The dirt road grew narrower, the trees on either side becoming denser. The GPS on Liam's phone started glitching, and the playful banter in the car gave way to an uneasy silence. Suddenly, the car jolted to a stop. "What was that?" Claire asked, her voice laced with worry. They stepped out to investigate and found that a thick tree root had punctured one of the tires. Charles shone his flashlight into the woods and noticed a faint trail leading deeper into the forest. "Guys, look at this path. While we wait for help, we could check it out," Charles suggested. Liam shook his head. "Or we could stay here and not become a horror story cliché." But curiosity got the better of them. Grabbing their flashlights, they followed the trail. The eerie discovery. The trail led them to a clearing where a dilapidated cabin stood, its windows shattered and its door hanging crooked on its hinges. A strange metallic smell hung in the air. "This place is seriously creepy," Sophia whispered. Charles pushed the door open. Inside, the walls were covered in strange carvings, symbols that looked ancient and incomprehensible. A cracked mirror leaned against one wall, its surface warped and covered in fine spiderweb-like cracks. Claire pointed to the carvings. "These look like they mean something. What do you guys think it says?" Liam, despite being the most hesitant earlier, was now drawn to the mirror. "This mirror is weird. It feels like it's moving, but it's not." Suddenly, a loud noise erupted from the back room of the cabin. All 4 of them froze. "We need to get out of here," Sophia said, panic rising in her voice. But before they could move, the mirror began to crack further, and from it emerged a dark, shadowy figure. The descent into chaos. The shadow lunged at them. Claire screamed and bolted for the door, Liam hot on her heels. Charles and Sophia stood frozen for a moment, staring at the figure with wide, terrified eyes. The figure turned and chased after Claire and Liam, leaving Charles and Sophia momentarily safe. Claire and Liam ran until they stumbled into a small clearing. In the center was a strange altar surrounded by bones, some animal, some human. A low hum filled the air, like a chant coming from nowhere and everywhere at once. "We have to get out of here," Liam said, his voice trembling. But before they could move, the shadow figure reappeared, this time joined by more sinister shapes. A twist of fate. Meanwhile, Charles and Sophia managed to find their way back to the car. The tire was mysteriously repaired, but Claire and Liam were nowhere to be found. "We can't leave without them," Sophia insisted. Charles nodded, but noticed something strange. Symbols like the ones in the cabin were now etched onto the car's hood. The engine roared to life on its own, and the headlights illuminated the trail. Figures began emerging from the woods, shadowy, glowing-eyed beings that slowly surrounded them. One of the figures looked just like Claire.
"The haunting end,"
Sophia screamed, and Charles yanked her into the car. They sped down the road, but no matter which direction they turned, they ended up back at the cabin. Standing in front of it was the cracked mirror, glowing faintly. As the car barreled toward the mirror, the world around them seemed to shatter like glass. Everything went dark. The final twist. Charles woke up alone in the forest. The car, the cabin, and his friends were gone. His phone buzzed. When he looked at it, he saw a live stream running. It showed the cabin, the mirror, and his friends standing still, their eyes empty and their bodies motionless. A whisper echoed through the trees, "You shouldn't have come here." Charles turned to run, but standing in his path was the shadow figure, its face now unmistakably his own. The screen goes black. Sometimes a simple wrong turn can lead you into a nightmare you can't escape from. Be careful what roads you choose.